With modern box office flops like the Marvels costing over $370 million to make, it makes you wonder how much movies used to cost. Well, wonder no more, here's the entire history of the most expensive movies of all time. Let's start this off in the 60s. As color TV became more and more common in American households, the cinema really needed something to set itself apart from what people could experience at home. Hollywood's response to that was to make huge epics with ginormous sets, big budgets, and loads of extras. Additionally, they also filmed everything in a widescreen format, which was not ideal for television at the time, but it worked great in cinemas. All of this led to the creation of the movie Cleopatra by 20th Century Fox, a movie so big and with such a huge budget, it almost bankrupted the whole studio. Of course, a big player like 20th Century Fox almost shutting down was very scary for Hollywood. The risk of shutting down, coupled with the counterculture movement of the 60s, led to smaller budget movies that focused on cultural issues to become the new standard in Hollywood. But as the counterculture movement faded, a whole 15 years after the release of Cleopatra, a different movie came flying to the top.
Up on the screen, it's Superman. Superman, the movie.
In the 70s, as big epics like Star Wars and Jaws made the studios a lot of money, Hollywood was willing to put some more budget into their movies again. And so in 1978, the first movie to cost over $50 million was made.
Do you really think you could hide it from me by encasing it in lead? Cut!
Filming Superman was not supposed to be this expensive. But due to multiple production issues, the star-studded cast, the incredible compositions, and the fact that the director was trying to film both Superman 1 and 2 at the same time, which then didn't really work out, but that's a topic for a different video, the movie's production costs ended up exceeding anything Hollywood had ever seen before. It took another 10 years for any movie to overtake the budget of Superman again. But this time, in the same year, 1988, two movies succeeded at overtaking Superman's budget. One of them was an absolute action icon, while the other one is a classic in animation.
Cartoons may act idiotic, but we're not stupid.
Who Framed Roger Rabbit?
Who Framed Roger Rabbit was a groundbreaking movie for animation, as it was the first movie to successfully combine 2D animation with live-action filming. But of course, doing something groundbreaking like that is never cheap, and so the movie ended up costing over $58 million to make. For a time before the success of Disney movies, this was a huge risk for Warner Bros. But luckily for the entire animation industry, it paid off, and Who Framed Roger Rabbit ended up being one of the highest grossing movies of its time.
Your worst nightmare. Stallone. Rambo 3.
Rambo 3 cost a whole $63 million to make, and therefore became the most expensive movie ever made at the time. But unlike Superman and Cleopatra before him, he was not gonna keep the title for very long. Just 2 years later, in 1990, another action classic set their sights on the top of this list.
This is just the beginning.
On July 4th, Die Harder. Bruce Willis, Die Hard 2.
After the success of previous high-budget movies, it just made sense to make more, which is why you slowly started seeing more and more of these high-budget Hollywood blockbusters come out. The most expensive one of these was Die Hard 2. But just like its predecessor, Rambo 3, it didn't last very long on the top. Just 1 year later, a different movie dethroned the Christmas classic.
There are two. Terminator 2.
Terminator 2 was groundbreaking at the time for its use of realistic CGI in a movie. While the CGI might look a little bit dated to us today, in 1991 this was something that was completely unheard of. But this innovation came at a cost. The CGI, coupled with the expensive practical effects, the huge sets, and the large star salaries, ended up costing this movie over $94 million in total. While Terminator 2 couldn't quite reach the $100 million mark, just 3 years later, in 1994, a different movie did.
Yeah, but they were all bad. True lies.
What can I say? I'm a spy.
The early 90s were really a golden time for Arnold Schwarzenegger as he starred in two of the most expensive movies of all time back to back. True Lies was the first movie with a budget of over $100 million. James Cameron really pushed the budget to its limit with crazy action scenes, huge explosions, and a star-studded cast. While being the first movie to cost over $100 million is certainly impressive, just 1 year later, another movie came in and completely blew these numbers out of the water.
Kevin Costner, Dennis Hopper, Gene Triplehorn. Waterworld.
Waterworld was a post-apocalyptic movie playing in a world after the ice caps melted and the earth was engulfed by water. In order to properly portray the endless sea, they actually ended up filming the movie in the open ocean. This led to huge complications, sets had to constantly be rebuilt due to bad weather, and production was just overall a nightmare for everyone involved. And the worst part about this is that the movie was a complete flop. Waterworld remained the most expensive movie of all time until 1998, when a different ocean-based movie took the #1 spot.
I'll never let go.
And Titanic really did not let go of that #1 spot. It was the first movie to cost over $200 million to shoot, and it dominated not only the most expensive movies chart, but also the highest grossing movies chart. By the way, we also have a video on the highest grossing movies of all time. Feel free to check it out after watching this one. James Cameron really wanted his viewers to feel like they were on the Titanic while they're watching the movie. This is why the movie was shot on a full-scale replica of the actual Titanic, and building such a replica certainly wasn't cheap. But as if that wasn't enough, James Cameron also led multiple trips to the actual Titanic wreckage in order to get some more footage of the actual ship for his movie. Add to that they had to make special cameras for shooting underwater, they had to build a ginormous water tank to simulate the ocean, and the extensive reshoots needed to really capture the director's vision. All of these things combined really killed the budget. In 2005, a whole 7 years of inflation later, a different movie finally overtook Titanic. After his huge break with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson was offered a historical amount of money to make his new vision come true. With a budget bigger than any other movie had ever seen before, Peter Jackson created King Kong. While there were no new groundbreaking techniques or equipment used in making his movie, the sheer scale of everything made this the most expensive movie at the time, costing a whopping $207 million to shoot. Unlike Titanic, the #1 spot did not last very long for King Kong, as only 4 months later, a different movie came in and landed on top.
Please.
Yeah, that one only lasted for 2 months.
Moments. I like to wave at them as they pass by.
After the success of the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie, Disney really doubled down with the budget. Dead Man's Chest was filmed mostly at sea in exotic locations, and as we already know from Waterworld before it, shooting at sea comes with lots of complications, which really ballooned the budget for this movie. Still, Disney knew what they were doing, as the movie was a huge success in the box office. Just 9 months later, in May 2007, a new movie climbed on top of this list. Yeah, this one only lasted for 28 days.
If I wasn't, this would probably never work.
Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End was the first movie to have an over $300 million production budget. Just like the previous Pirates movie, this one was also filmed mostly at sea in various tropical locations and in the UK. Additionally, due to the success of the series, as most of the movies in the series went on to be some of the highest grossing movies of all time, Disney kept pouring in more money and making things bigger and bigger. The movie stayed on top of this list until 2011, when the next movie of the same franchise came in to sweep the #1 spot.
You won't see that because I will not be doing it again.
The fourth Pirates movie did everything that the third one did, but bigger. It had bigger sets, more stars, more expensive action scenes, and more expensive locations to film at. Pirates of the Caribbean stayed on top until 2015, when a different Disney property came for the throne.
Just let it in.
And to this day, Star Wars The Force Awakens is the most expensive movie ever made. After Disney found the perfect formula for selling movie merchandise, they went on a shopping spree in the 2010s. This shopping spree resulted with them owning the rights to many new movie franchises, like the Marvel movies and the Star Wars movies as well. Considering how confident Disney is in being able to sell lots of merchandise and make all their money back either way, they started putting more and more money into their movies, and so nowadays, 11 out of the 15 most expensive movies of all time are actually Disney properties. And even though some of them might not look too profitable on paper, the merchandise sales make up for it. With Star Wars almost cracking the $450 million mark, which movie do you think will be the first one to cost more than $450 million to shoot? While researching the data for this video, it was honestly dizzying to see these big numbers for movies nowadays. Were there any movies that you're surprised to see and not see on this list? If so, let us know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Making these videos is a lot of work, so I'd really appreciate if you could leave a like and subscribe for more videos in the future. Until then, have a good one.